My goal with this webinar, guys, is to help you understand a little bit more about the strategy of the practice. We're going to get into some of the philosophy and some of the mindset because this is very important for your development in the training. And if we can address some of these things in the beginning and through our practice, and this is going to be good for you, whether you've been doing this practice for 2 months or you've been doing it for 10 years, we're going to cover some concepts and some ideas that will help you really evolve with what you're doing. And we're going to start by just kind of going over a basic understanding of the layout of our practice. And in any kind of a meditation practice, it doesn't matter if you're doing Tai Chi, qigong, sitting meditation, yoga practices, whatever it is, there's 5 different paths that we can take on our practice. There is the athletic side of the practice where a lot of athletes will practice the meditative arts to help improve their performance through their awareness, their presence, their ability to keep the mind-body connection in tune, and all of these things that will help their performance. Then there's the therapeutic side of the practice. And the therapeutic side of the practice is helpful with our longevity and our ability to stay mobile and move and helping through injuries and this kind of thing. And then there is the medical side of the practice. And the medical side of the practice is a very deep topic. It's something that, all of uh, Chinese medicine comes from qigong theory. And so in the old days, all of the old Chinese doctors used to be qigong practitioners. And so this is a very deep path to follow. And then we have the philosophical side of the training. And the philosophical side of the training for me has always been something that I've been very passionate about. I love it because it helps kind of open up your peripheral vision, if you will, and kind of see things from different angles and able to be strategic in many areas in life. And then lastly, there's the spiritual side of the training. And the spiritual side of the training is very profound as well. Meditation masters and qigong practitioners will spend their entire life's journey working towards that ultimate stage of enlightenment. And so any one of these paths or any one of these reasons that's drawing you to a meditative practice is good. And you might have maybe one or two of these pillars that you want to focus on. And once we have that idea is important because now we can pick and choose different practices that will help us evolve along that path. So we're going to go into some ideas with that. In ancient China, there's this story of an old stonecutter, and he was very well known through the lands because he created all of these beautiful sculptures through animal sculptures and scenery. And because he was so well known, he had people traveling to train with him and study with him and be his apprentice from all across the lands. And so he was very, very, very common to see a number of people around him all of the time. Well, every morning, the stonecutter, he used to go down to the river and meditate first thing in the morning. And one morning, he was walking along the river after he was done meditating, and he had this vision of this big 6 foot tall, mystical Chinese dragon that was made out of jade. And he was so taken by this image and so drawn to it that he decided this was going to be his next project. So, in order to find a rock that would support a 6 foot tall jade dragon was pretty rare. And so he spent the next few months traveling all over looking for this perfect rock that would work for him. When he found it, he brought it back to his shop and he spent the first few days just studying the rock and looking at it and trying to envision how the dragon would unfold when he started chiseling away at the rock. And once he found and he had the idea and saw the dragon within the rock, he picked one spot on the rock and placed his chisel there and started tapping it with the hammer. He never moved the chisel once. He would tap hundreds, if not thousands of times a day, and nothing seemed to happen. It was just tap after a tap, and just kept going. 3 days go by, 6 days go by. And his apprentices started thinking, man, does this guy know what he's doing? They started kind of second guessing him, or maybe offering suggestions. Why don't you do this or that? And finally, after about 9 days of tapping on this rock, he hit it with one strike, and this piece came off the backside of the rock about 3 feet long, and it made this smooth, curved line. And one of his apprentices asked him, he said, how did you know that that strike was going to break the rock? And the stonecutter said, it wasn't that strike that broke the rock. It was the thousands of strikes before it that broke the rock. And the apprentice, with a little bit of a discouraged look, he said, but there was no cracks. There was no sign of any change. Why keep striking that same place when nothing was happening? And the stonecutter got down on his knees, and he felt the smooth edge of the line that he just created on the backside of the stone. And he said, it was not each strike was being wasted. Each strike was changing the stone beneath the surface. And even though we could not see it, it was through that consistency and repetition that it shaped not only the stone, but it also shaped the person who's wielding the hammer. And I like this story in that it resonates so well with the meditative arts, in that, so often we're practicing these breathing techniques and doing these movements and these postures and studying these philosophical concepts and trying to get to a deeper level of understanding and awareness within our practice, but we don't see anything happening day to day. But it's with this consistent effort and this time that we invest in this, that it's starting to strengthen our foundation and change us beneath the surface. And my goal with this webinar is, one, to give you a couple tools that you'll have some things that keep you motivated and focused in those times when we're trying to tap away and not seeing anything on the surface, but also give you a couple practical things that you can take with you to help build and lay a foundation within your practice. So, as a teacher for over 30 years in the meditative arts, one of the biggest struggles I have is getting students to understand the importance of consistency in their practice, and seeing that this is something that we really need to invest time in to really reap the benefits, because there are so many benefits that come with this practice. And so I've come up with a few things that I like people to spend a little bit of time with, thinking about them. And I find that if you do this, it really helps your motivation and helps you find value in the practice that you're doing. And so I'm going to run through it pretty fast in this webinar, but what I'd like you to do after the webinar, today or tomorrow or as soon as you can, take 30 minutes or maybe even an hour and run through this process and really put some heartfelt thought into it and see what this means for you. So when somebody new comes in, I have them think about, what is it that's drawing them to the practice? Why do you want to do this? And maybe for you, it's you want to watch your grandkids grow up and stay healthy and mobile so you can play with them when they get older. Or maybe you're dealing with stress or anxiety, or you have panic attacks and you want to use this practice to help feel more comfortable in your own skin. Or maybe you're an athlete and you want to learn how to improve your performance on the field. Whatever that is for you, think about what that surface level why is. And then not only that surface level why, but I want you to think about, if you were to accomplish that and you were consistent with the practice and you reached that goal and it helped you get what you wanted out of the practice, how would that change in other areas of your life? And think about 10 or 20 things of how your life would positively change by reaching that goal and accomplishing that. And then I want you to flip the coin and think about 10 or 20 things that are going to be a negative result of not doing the practice. So if you put a little bit of time and energy and some really kind of heartfelt thought into this, it's going to help give you motivation and drive to want to do the practice because we're all human. There's times where the alarm goes off and you get up in the morning and it's time to do your practice, and you're tempted to just hit the snooze button and say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I don't have time today, or I'm too tired today. And if we can get to the point where we stop looking at this like it is a chore that we need to do every day, and it's more of something that we get to do because we're seeing so many benefits from the practice, if we can have that mindset shift, it will change everything that we're doing with the practice. And that's what I want you guys to get from this. The next thing, which we've already kind of touched on, is the idea of consistency. And the Dalai Lama once said that everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate for an hour. And I really resonate with that saying, in that everybody has time to meditate and do a meditation practice 20 minutes a day. And we're going to talk about today ritual practices, active practices, and some philosophical practices that we can put into this. And by having an evolving life practice with the meditative arts, it doesn't mean that you need to retire to a cave and go meditate for the rest of your life. There's many ways to integrate these things into your day-to-day activities where you don't really need to change who you are or what you're doing to benefit from these practices. So when I talk about the three pillars of meditation, I'm we're looking at what I call ritual practices, active practices, and philosophical practices. And today we're going to learn a little bit about all three of those. Ritual practices are when we set time aside every day and we're working on our Tai Chi form or qigong set or standing meditation or whatever that is for you. Active practices are when we set an alarm on our phone maybe to go off every 60 or 90 minutes. And every time it goes off, we do a breathing practice, or maybe we do a movement practice or something to just bring us back into that present state of awareness. Because even if you're disciplined and you have a ritual practice that you do every day, and you feel at peace and relaxed from doing your practice, and then the whole rest of the day you're stressed out and distracted, it kind of takes away from your efforts. And so having these active practices into your life will help you kind of start to live the practice and have it be less of a hobby that we're doing once in a while. And that is the hopes by showing you guys this stuff today. And so we're going to start with our reset practices today, and I'm going to show you three of these. Two of these are settling practices, and one is an energizing practice. And we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy behind the breath after we look at these three different resets that we're going to learn. So this first reset is one I call the quickie. It's a very simple practice. We're going to keep it really short today and just do 10 breaths with it. And when we do this, I'm going to have you guys practice with me. And what I'd like you to do is just find a comfortable place where you're sitting with an upright spine, relax across the chest and the shoulders. In the beginning, you can place one hand on the belly and one hand on the chest to kind of help you feel the breath a little bit. And we're just going to count out 10 deep belly breaths. It's only going to take about 2 minutes. And I want you to just kind of pay attention and notice if you feel any state change as we go through this practice. So as you start the inhale, fill up the belly and open the perineum. Lift the chest, fill up the lungs. And then as you exhale, relax the lungs, contract the belly, and let the perineum contract slightly. And let's just do 9 more cycles on your own. Good. And then relax and just come back into uh, moving around a little bit. Now, notice how just after 2 minutes, notice if you feel anything different. This is the first time you've done that, maybe for some of you. But the idea is while you may have noticed a relaxing sensation or maybe become a little bit more present within the body after just one session, but imagine if you did this every 90 minutes, 10 times a day for the next 4 months. What you felt today is going to be magnified tenfold by that practice. And so it's so important. Like, if you want to integrate this and you really want to get to a deep level of feeling within your practice, to incorporate these ideas of these reset practices into what you're doing. It's easy to do, just again, set an alarm on your phone. Some of these practices, like this quickie practice, you could do this when you're standing in the line at the grocery store. Just stand still and count out 10 breaths while you're patiently waiting. And so you don't need to adjust your lifestyle to integrate these things into what you're doing. But through consistent effort and doing this over time, you're really going to see a lot of benefit from it. The next one I'm going to show you is one I call relaxing or settling arms. And we're going to do this same deep belly breath. We're just going to do 10 repetitions again, so about 2 minutes, keep it fairly short. And when we do this practice, you're going to add a little bit of movement to the practice. So when we inhale, we're going to bring our arms up over the head. And as we exhale and slowly scan the palms down the body, I want you to visualize wherever your hands are, that level, like in my forehead right now, or my eyebrows, my jaw, my neck, across my shoulders and chest. All of these things are sinking and settling through the body, through the organs. Everything is just relaxing. This is a great practice for helping to reduce your blood pressure and just be a little bit more settled. So go ahead and follow me through. We'll do about 10 cycles on this. Inhale up. And if my breath tempo is different than yours, go ahead and do it your own pace. You want to have a relaxed breath. All right. So for those of you that maybe are right now dealing with high blood pressure, what I'd like you to do, if you have a blood pressure monitor, is next time you notice maybe your blood pressure looking a little bit high, practice do a set of maybe 15 of these, and then check your blood pressure again, and you'll see an immediate change. And while it may not be a lot in the beginning, again, by doing this consistently through time, and if you're doing these resets every 60 minutes every day, not only are you going to be able to control that and see bigger changes in the immediate process of what you're doing, but you're also, by putting that daily effort into it, you're going to see less episodes, less times where that blood pressure is getting spiked. You know, I often run into people that say that they practice meditation, and I'm always curious. And so I'll ask them, well, what do you do for your practice? And I'll hear people say some pretty strange things sometimes, but oftentimes I'll hear somebody say, well, I get stressed out a lot, or I have panic attacks. So when I feel a panic attack coming on, or I get stressed out, I I go do some deep breathing, or I do this practice. And that's kind of like saying that you wake up in the morning and you want to have an apple for lunch. So you go plant an apple seed in the morning in hopes that you're going to have fruit to eat for lunch. You want to develop this practice so we build that foundation. Remember, we're looking for those changes beneath the surface. And by continuing that and being disciplined with our ritual practices and these active practices, we start to have that foundation and that ability to, maybe you have 3 panic attacks a week, you start doing this practice, it goes down to one, and eventually they just go away. And not only do they go away, but when they do come, because you have such a deep awareness and connection with the body, you can turn to one of these practices and it will help settle it down when it starts to come out. And next, we're going to look at one other reset practice, and this is more of an energizing practice. So the last two were very settling. This one is going to help kind of pick us up a little bit. And when we do this practice, because oftentimes if you're not used to doing this method of breathing, it can lead to a feeling of lightheadedness. So if you feel that, just pause and relax, come back to your normal breath. And we're only going to do 3 sets of 15 of this so we don't experience that feeling. And so when we do this breath, it's called a rapid breath. You're going to use your abdominal muscles. And as you inhale, you're going to expand the belly to help pull that breath in through the nose. And as you exhale, you're going to bring the belly in and let that breath come out your mouth. So it looks like this. Let's do a set of 15, and then we're going to do 2 relaxed breaths to kind of settle down, and then a second set, and then a third set. And again, this will take about maybe 2 minutes. So you can follow me and do it your own rhythm as well. And now take a couple slow, relaxed breaths. And set 2. And a couple relaxed breaths. And one more set. And relax. Now, as we start learning how to integrate these active practices and using the breath as a strategy, qigong is often referred to as a science of the breath, and there's literally hundreds of different breathing strategies that you'll learn within this practice. And because there's so many practices, we kind of broadly categorize them into like yin methods and yang methods. And the yin methods are like the quickie and the relaxing arms. There are things that help bring that energy inward. And there's things that we can do to make them more yin, but we'll talk about that in a later lesson. But as we start learning how to adjust these yin and yang different practices, we can regulate our physical, mental, and emotional well being. And an example of a yin practice would be if you ever listen to somebody sleep, their natural breathing pattern is a longer inhale and a shorter exhale. Well, we can do that method of a practice within our breath work and do longer inhales, soft retentions at the end of the inhale, and shorter exhales to help bring that energy inward and get closer to our subconscious mind, but without falling asleep. And this is very beneficial towards helping us with stress and anxiety and panic attacks and boosting our creativity. I mean, there's lots of reasons why we would do this yin side of the breath. Then we have the yang side of the breath. It's more aggressive. You'll notice a lot of athletes practice chanting, or they'll do things with this exhale to help build them up and improve their energy before a competition. Or maybe, you ever just had to pick up something heavy, you'll notice your natural instinct is to exhale and put tension in the breath and use that power of that breath by putting tension or making it audible to help stimulate that power within what we're doing. And so in Chinese philosophy, they call this balancing the kan and li, or the water and fire. And when we learn how to use these strategies within our ritual and active practices, we can use them to adjust our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. All right, we are going to change gears now and look at a ritual practice. And normally when I do this practice, I do it with 108 breaths. Today, because of the webinar, we're only going to do 6 cycles of it because I just want you to get a little bit of the feeling of it. And then you can take it if you like and practice it on your own. And the idea of this practice is we are going to use sounds so we can feel the vibration of the sound and see how that resonates in the body. And as we're making these sounds, I want you to try to stay relaxed and keep your skeletal alignment. So through that relaxation and really sinking into your sitting posture or standing, if you're doing a standing practice, we can let go of that tension so it opens us up to be more sensitive and aware of those vibrations of the sounds. And we're going to do 3 basic sounds that I'm sure all of you have heard before: Om, Ah, and Hung. And I'm going to show you some different methods on how to practice these. And then we're also going to attach a meaning to these sounds and integrate some of the philosophical work. So when we say Om, for example, on the inhale breath, we're in our minds, we're going to be thinking the changeless strength and beauty of true nature we all possess. The body brings peace, bliss, clarity, firmness, courage, stability, and strength. When we say ah, then on the inhale breath, we're going to think the ceaseless expression and prevailing energy of reality. The speech brings energy, openness, expansion, and empowerment. And then Hong, the unmoving perfection of reality's primordial openness, the Buddha's mind, is for the attainment of enlightenment, infinity, essence, and oneness. And as we go through these practices, I'm going to post it up on the board so you guys don't have to memorize that. You can read those hours we're doing these. So again, we're just going to do 6 cycles, and I want you to follow at your own pace. And since you guys all have your mute on, it doesn't matter if we're in a different rhythm. We're just going to do this for a few minutes. And as we do this, remember, we're going to be making the sound on the exhale and drag it out for as long as you can comfortably. And then on the inhale, we're going to read through what that specific sound means. And then we're going to go into the second sound. And now on my mic, for some reason, once I get halfway through the sound, you'll hear me cutting out, but everything's okay. And just know that I'm carrying that sound out as long as I can, even though it's going to go silent. So when we do this practice, let me get that slide up here for you. All right. Can you guys see that slide? Put a thumbs up if you can see it, please. Okay, awesome. And so what I'd like you to do is just follow me through. And again, we're just going to do 6 cycles of this to keep it short. So find your upright posture in a relaxed place. Let go across the chest and shoulders. And then inhale with a deep, full breath. Om. And then on the inhale, changeless strength and beauty of true nature we all possess. The body brings peace, bliss, clarity, firmness, courage, stability, and strength. Ah. The ceaseless expression and prevailing energy of reality, the speech brings energy, openness, expansion, and empowerment. Om. The unmoving perfection of reality's primordial openness, the mind, is for the attainment of enlightenment, infinity, essence, and oneness. 5 more cycles on your own. Om. Um, Om. Om. Um, Om. Om. Ah. Oh. Oh. Ah. Oh. Oh. Ah. Oh. Right. Go ahead and slowly move around a little bit. Now, that was only 6 cycles or 18 breaths. And maybe you noticed a state change from doing that, or a little bit more relaxed, or started feeling some of the vibration a little bit more, whatever that is. If you do this, like I mentioned in the beginning, I like to sit through this when I'm doing this. I do it for 108 breaths. And you start to get into this almost like trance state where you really start to resonate with the sound, and you really start to sink into the posture and feel that vibration and that energy. This is a very powerful practice. And if you don't have time to do 108 breaths, you can use this practice as a reset practice. Maybe just do 12 or 15 sounds of Om by itself. And you can do that with or without the meaning if you like. Another way that I like practicing this for a reset practice is to link all three of the sounds together. So sometimes when you inhale, you can start off the breath with Om, change to Ah, change to Hom. And every time you do that, you're making all three sounds. And that's a way that I like playing with it as well. And so you can kind of play around with it a little bit, use it as a ritual practice or an active practice. Now, real briefly, before I open it up to questions, I'd like to kind of touch on a little bit of a couple logistical things and also talk about what we're going to do in the next session. So, first off, I know there's a few of you on the call who aren't involved with the community here at our physical location or on the online community. And if that's you and you like some of the stuff that we're doing, please check out the yieldingwarrior.com. There's a chance for you to go up there and try a 2-week trial and see what the membership's all about. It talks about, the philosophical side of the practices, teaches you sitting practices, breath work, movement practices. There's about 15 to 20 years worth of content up there. Plus, it gives you access to some of this live stuff that we're going to be doing. Now, for the next session, we're going to focus on the yin yang theory. And I know all of you know white and black, front and back, the basics of yin yang, right? But we're going to talk about how we can integrate this theory into our practice and our relationships and our mental awareness and in our emotional stability. is a really powerful concept that can affect everything we do in life. And so I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with that, and then also show you a couple physical meditation practices that we can do to kind of bring our awareness into that idea of the yin yang theory. And so that's what we'll focus on for the majority of the time in the next session.